CritRock presents The World Through My Eyes. A podcast about all things deep, dumb, and daring. Straight from the heart. Well, good morning, good evening, good day, and good night to anyone who has chosen to spend this time on planet Earth with me. Thank you for inviting me into your eardrums, and thank you for this opportunity to talk with you today. I figured I'd introduce myself in this. You know, there's a lot that I want to talk about, but very little time. So we'll start one thing at a time, one episode at a time, and see where we get from there, eh? So, what do you call me? Well, I've been thinking about that for a while. Do I use my real name? Do I use a pseudonym? But the truth is, I think for these first couple of episodes, I don't think my name matters. If you know it, great, but really, I just want to be a human being to you. It doesn't matter who I am in the outside world. I would like to use this space to explore who you are. You know, as far as I'm concerned, you don't have a mic set up, right? So I'm going to have to do the talking for both of us. Sounds like a chore. It isn't. This is one of my favorite things in the entire world. For years and years, people have been saying that when I leave them voice messages or things like that, the consensus is always, hey, have you thought about doing a podcast? You've got the voice for it. Well, this is it. After years and years of contemplating it, we're finally going on this adventure, down this rabbit hole, and I cannot wait to get into this with you. So what is this podcast about then? Surely it's not just talking about me, the listener. Well, it could do, because there's a lot I want to talk about here. See, I have held off for a long time on making a podcast, and that could primarily be because maybe I wasn't sure that people were actually going to listen to it. But also, I wasn't sure what form it was going to take. I felt like if I went one direction, I couldn't go another. And so, I'd like to start this out without any real expectations, aside from what you hear is what you get, and I guarantee that it will have every ounce of heart and soul put into it. That's a fact. If you spend this time with me, you do not know what you are going to get. But I hope that it leaves you with warm fuzzies. I hope it resonates with you. I hope that you learn a thing or two, or that you discover a new interest. I hope that you're able to see the world in a way that is often softer than the way it's portrayed through mainstream media. And that was the next thing I wanted to talk about. I would like to be the antithesis to a lot of things that I disagree about with mainstream media. But this podcast is not about me. It's about us. I would like to create a comfy space for 30 to 45 to 60 minutes where, when you're listening to this, you know that I'm not going to test you or berate you or harm you. And to the best of my ability, I don't want to scare you either.
Or do I?
I'm a very gentle human being, and I believe in peace and kindness and respect and compassion and consideration for one another. I believe in raising each other up, not pushing others down to make ourselves feel grand. For a long time, I held off on making this podcast because I didn't think anyone would listen to it. I've been in the media industry for, I want to say, about 12 years, ranging from Minecraft Let's Plays to charity live streams to short films to music to audio plays to wrestling events every now and then. I've dabbled in a lot of crafts, and this is one I've been wanting to get to for a very long time. But it felt too easy to sit here with a mic and talk to you and expect you to digest every word I'm saying. Well, you don't have to. You don't have to comprehend everything. If this is a comfy bit of listening for you in the background, then all the more respect to you. If I'm joining you on your commute to work, or if I'm snuggled in bed with you as you're drifting off to a peaceful sleep, I promise I won't exploit that. Think of me as your bedtime story. Think of me as a preach, as a pep talk, as an info dump, as a friend. And that's what I'm trying to get at today. That from the moment I pressed record, I don't know what I'm going to tell you. But I do know that it's going to be a journey between you and I. If I'm not too sure that people are going to listen to this, then that just leaves you and I. It doesn't matter how many ears are listening. If it's one and it helps, then my mission here is a success. You don't have to say anything back, but you can think whatever you want back. Just as long as it sparks thought and feeling, and if that inspires you, or changes your perspective, or puts you to rest, or just reaffirms what you agree with, excellent. Brilliant. And if it doesn't, if this podcast isn't for you, then that's okay too. The best thing is to just move on and find what does work for you. Or maybe just podcasts aren't your thing. That's all right. So that means that whoever is here with me, like yourself, then you and I can talk as though we're in the same room. I'm happy to carry the conversation for a bit. I got lots to say. But not an agenda. And isn't that the most exciting opportunity to you? Because I know roughly the themes of things I'd like to talk about. I'd like to talk about life, the universe, and everything. I'd like to talk about how we should maybe be nice to each other and how you can do that and how it gives you warm fuzzies. I would love to info dump to you for however long about all these niche topics that I'm so fascinated by and want to share with you, just on the off chance that you might appreciate it. We're talking things like PS1 games and Doctor Who and stories and trains and pro wrestling, and I might even bust out the guitar every now and then. Heck, you already know I probably will. I'd love to bring some friends in so that we can have a two-way conversation about all these things that I'm eager to share with you. But I'd also like to just have a heart-to-heart with you when there's no one else. I hope I can just speak to you like a human being for a little bit. I think that this podcast is happening at the exact right time. We are facing uncharted territory. And a lot of people are saying that that's a reason that we should be terrified. But actually, considering if you're more than 5 years old right now, we've all navigated the 2020s so far. And I think everybody knows that we've got our work cut in for us. And if we continue to collectively navigate trials together, then I'd like to be here for you through that. I'm not going anywhere. I'm nestled in my plans for the next half decade at the very least. And wherever I go, I feel like you're going to be coming with me. So let's go on some adventures. Not across places, so to speak, but across topics. Across ideas, across thoughts and feelings and experiences. Let me connect to you as a human being. Because that's my favourite thing in the world. And I want you to remember that you yourself are a living, breathing, thinking, feeling human being. And we get very little leeway sometimes with that. That we can have a margin of error and we can make mistakes and that we can forget things sometimes. We can change our mind. And sometimes that gets in the way of other people's expectations and, we feel like we don't have a right to that. But we do. And you do. I want to give you your rights and your liberties back, even just in private, to yourself. I would love to reconcile you with yourself by being one voice amongst your internal monologue that isn't telling you to get on with things, to work faster and harder, to do this, to do that, to go here, be this, before it's too late. How about you and I just navigate the natural flow and course of your life and have a merry old chat along the way? Because we're all on the same journey right now. Planet Earth, 2025. I'm here living it too. I'm not just a disembodied voice. But I know the kind of things that you may face on a day-to-day basis. And it may feel like that's all there is. When we embrace routine in our lives, we sometimes forget that the world is the most varied place there is. And it's right there at our fingertips. So yeah, I relate to the experience of waking up in the morning and drinking water and eating breakfast, lunch and dinner. Sometimes I don't get all three in a day. But I do eat. And that's what matters. And while we're at it, while we're on that topic, my heart goes out to people who find eating to be a daily chore. This is what I mean, that I may know you in ways that you don't quite yet realise. And that's not an invasion of privacy, if anything it's a guess, but I relate. And I know how it feels to be a human being. So let's talk about that without shame, without marketing, without profit, without ego. And let's validate ourselves for the indefinite future. I'd like that very, very much. And if you'll have me, then, mate, it's lovely to meet you. Welcome aboard. And we're only covering the down-to-earth real topics right now. You don't quite realise yet how surreal it is going to get here. I'm a fella with a big imagination, and I'm an aspiring storyteller. And so I would like to tell you stories as we go along. It's not always going to be me having a TED talk with you, but I've written loads and loads of things over the years, and I love making stories up on the fly. So that's what I'd like this to be. I'd like to have a heart-to-heart with you for a bit. I'd like to chat nonsense. I'd like to give you a deep dive into the kind of things that make my heart sing. And I'd like to read you some stories and sing you some songs and make you smile and laugh and relax and rest and cry. But I hope that when you do cry here, it'll be the most beautifully touching experience. I will never make you cry out of despair. The world's far too hopeful for that. And so I hope that when I press stop record in a couple of minutes, that you'll be left wondering, I wonder what he's going to talk about next. I wonder what we'll talk about next. So this is it. This is me saying, hello world, how are you feeling today? Because it's good to be alive. It's difficult sometimes, of course it is. But if you're listening to this, you've survived 100% of your best and worst days. You have formed core memories that likely replay in your head all the time. Those colours and sounds and people and places, they're all yours, and they make this fruit salad of music in us that we can't quite show to others, can we? Only in little slices. And so this is mine. This is my attempt to share the world through our eyes. And so for the time being, I think this is our time. I think 20 minutes is a pretty good round off. And so I'll close this by saying that I see you, and I hear you, and I respect you, and I love you, and I believe in you. And so I'll see you when I'm looking at you. How does that sound? Well, it sounds like a plan to me. Right then, I suppose we'll get a boogie on then. God bless you, listener. I can't wait till we meet again. Let's close this with a song, shall we? The garden was quiet, unusually so. The flowers that sprouted, just where did they go? The gardener gazed at his summertime bride. They shot up too soon. They withered and died. That day it was warm, and they rushed to the space. But weather for growing? Nah, that wasn't the case. The soil was rugged, the season was grey, with wind that could blow all the petals away. I'm so glad you're here, said with tears on his face, 'cause growing's an art. It takes patience and pace. A flower can't grow up and bloom in one go, or break from the earth when it's too soon to know. I thought I was late, she started to cry. Thought no one was blooming much slower than I. You're nowhere near late, love. In fact, you're on time. And Sonny, your aura today is sublime. The sunflower blushed as she looked up to blue, her petals wide open, a bright golden hue. The summer was comfy, just swaying in place, knowing she'd gone at her own steady pace. At last in her life she felt she was free, and welcomed the buzz of a small bumblebee. The bumblebee hovered, then landed to stay, revived her with pollen, and stayed for the day. The sunflower asked, "Have you nothing to do?" The bee said, "I waited all summer for you. Your pollen is rich and your bloom a delight. Your touch keeps me warm in the dark of the night. I promise to stay through your struggles and strife. We're birds of a feather. We're bee gang for life." And only on up did the sunflower grow. For joy to be waiting, how could she have known? The soil was dark, nowhere struggle compares. I wondered for sure I would drown in my tears. The bumblebee listened to every word. What hardship, he nodded, but there he assured. Tears are the water that prompt us to grow, for nothing emerges on sunlight alone. 2 years and a bit, and the summer is here. Thank you, dear sunflower, for making it here.